Here we are, Chapter 2 for Keys to the City. We're enjoying, we know you are too, enjoying this docuseries on HBO, Celtics City. And this one, Chapter 2, Jackie, is called No Final Victories. And it really gets into the Celtics post-Bob Cousy. And that was a big deal for Bill Russell, wasn't it?
It was, because just like as years going forward, the first championship without Coos, no one thought it could be done. Well, Russell knew it could be done. And not only did he do it once, not to quote LeBron, and another, and another, and another, and off they go.
But he actually did the LeBron quote.
He really did. he stuck around long enough to do
going,
it.
Right.
Exactly. So it was of great significance to Bill, and I think, honestly, to everybody else too, probably to Red as well. And it becomes a pattern going forward in the history of the Celtics. After Russell retires, it's very significant, the first championship post-Russell, which is during the Dave Cowens years. Then you go on to the first championship after that, and that's the big three, the original big three, and it goes on and on and on. And the one thing that I think we see in episode 2, that we see throughout this film, is the pressure that the subsequent generations feel to uphold this tradition that Bill Russell and Bob Cousy established.
And it's a positive thing and a negative thing.
Yes.
I mean, the negative of that kind of pressure, but it's only possible because of what the Celtics did in the very beginning. You think about it, the Patriots, it took them 40 years to win a championship.
Right.
So you don't have, hey, one champion to the next. The Red Sox, we know about that drought from 1918 to 2004.
Talk about the weight of the world,
Yeah,
right?
so, but you don't have champions saying, hey, this is how I did it. Even the Bruins ran into a dynasty with the Canadians, and so that kind of blocked a lot of players from saying, hey, I won the cup, I won the cup. The Celtics, you got championships in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and the drought was really between 86 and 2008. So you still have a lot of people who can tell these championship stories. I mean, is that a good thing? Ultimately, is it a good thing? It really is a point of the documentary that it's...
Well, it is, and I think the reason you don't have to tell any Celtics player the history of it is they live it. They live
Right.
it from the people. There's footage all through this documentary of Russell sitting with Jaylen Brown, Russell sitting with Paul Pierce. They're all connected. You don't have to tell them the story because it's part of their connective tissue. I thought in episode 2, the thing that stood out at me was you forget what Bill Russell was up against Michael
Yes.
to win anything, okay?
Right.
And I always, the sort of the microcosm of this whole documentary is the Boston Celtics are arguably the most racially progressive franchise in all of sports, anywhere, because of everything they did. First black player drafted, first starting five, first black coach, on and on, against the backdrop of a city that was having a horrible time, a deserved reputation as a really bad, racially volatile place that no black person would want to go. And I thought in episode 2, and I didn't remember this, Michael. I know you know what I'm going to say.
I know.
Red
And
Auerbach
we both covered the team.
We did, but Red is talking about all the negative publicity of the city of Boston and their racial epitaphs and missteps, and his team's wearing Boston on his uniforms, and he's like, enough. We're going to be the Celtics. I want us to be identified as our team, not as our city. And that's, of course, the refrain that Bill Russell said throughout his entire career.
Russell, you've interviewed him many times. I interviewed Bill Russell, and he always said, and I'd ask him about being in Boston. There were FBI files on Bill Russell. There were death threats on Bill Russell. So his family did not feel secure. I mean, he kept going. I'm sure it had to weigh on him a bit, but I'd ask him about Boston and the racial dynamics, and he would always come back to the Celtics. His famous quote, being part of the Celtics was like being in heaven.
Right.
That's who I really played for. That's what I enjoyed. But we see Russell start to really emerge. He was pioneering in many ways, on the court and off the court. He started to emerge as a civil rights leader, and really not backing down, unapologetically stepping forward in some of the issues of the day.
Yes.
I think that set the tone for the organization as well.
And I think it made them uncomfortable at times, frankly. He marched with Martin Luther King. He was there for Medgar Evers' funeral. He was sitting in the audience for the I Have a Dream speech. He was very involved in local politics here, pushing to help the inner city communities like Roxbury and Dorchester were definitely underserved. He was going to school committee meetings. He was interested in making people uncomfortable about the situation Boston is so clannish.
Yeah.
It was so insular, always has been that way. And I didn't grow up in Boston, but outside of Boston. And it was the one thing that always made me incredibly uncomfortable. I mean, I forget who said it in the documentary, but if you were a white guy in Roxbury, you're going to get beaten up. If you're a black guy in Southie, you're getting beaten up. What kind of place is this?
Right. And against all that, and the final thing is, not only did Russell continue to win championships as a player, now Russell takes over for Red in 1966. Red leaves as a champion. Russell takes over the team, and he's getting questions. He's getting questions if he can be unbiased, if he can be fair to white players as the head coach of the Celtics.
Can you imagine?
And then when he won a championship, the question was asked, hey, to Red, how'd you feel about the coaching this year?
I know, unbelievable. It's just, and for him to show the composure that he did in some of those clips, they ask him, can you not be reverse racism? I think
he said,
what they.
Yes.
Yes, right. Like, you're an idiot. That's what he really wanted to say. But,
right.
Pretty good.
Hey, we enjoyed the episode. I hope you're continuing to enjoy it. We'll see you next time. Thanks for hanging out.